Another big hitting the NBA trade market, a new name to keep an eye on, and it's Clint Capela with the Atlanta Hawks. What could he bring to the trade market, and who should be interested in trading for him? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. About 80% of you watching are not subscribed. If I'm talking about you, hit the subscribe button. You won't regret it. We're heading into the trade deadline. Come on, subscribe. All right. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, Clint Capela hitting the trade market. I'm excited to take a look at this because I think he could be a really interesting name for teams to explore.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about Clint. So he's somebody that I think teams should be trying to go after if possible. If I remember, he didn't have the craziest or anything like that contract. So definitely an interesting name to have on the market. But I wanted to segue from there really quickly back to what you were just saying. By the way, we did hit over 15,000 subscribers here on the channel. So thank you, everyone. We really appreciate your support. Trevor and I have been grinding, and we're really excited about this channel. We want to keep it going. So again, thank you guys. We really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into Capela here. So this is Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype noted that what's happened is Clint Capela has been replaced in the starting lineup now for the Atlanta Hawks, and Onyeka Okongwu has taken over the starting job, which we knew would happen eventually. Yeah. But now that it's happening with Capela still on the roster, the thought was they would trade Capela and then make this change. The fact that they've already made this change now, it's been a couple of games now that Okongwu has been the starter. Now the thought is that Capela is extremely available out there with his recent move to the bench, and he's in the final year of a $22 million contract. Executives around the league are monitoring him on the trade market. So here's the thing, though, and this is what I think makes the Capela situation so interesting, is that he is a $22 million expiring contract. However, the Atlanta Hawks, they're not in the position of some of the other sellers on the market when we think about the bigs. We think about Vucevic, right, with the Chicago Bulls. Similar size contract, has another year on the deal, but veteran center, about $20 million, should have some interest around the NBA. But the Chicago Bulls have a lot of incentive to tank. When we talk about Jonas Valanciunas, same thing. There's incentive to tank. When we think about the Portland Trailblazers with Robert Williams, same thing. There's incentive to tank there. Not so with the Atlanta Hawks. So with the Hawks, I think we could see them try to use Capela's expiring contract to actually act as buyers on the market to help solidify their playoff spot rather than just take, let's say, expiring money, future salary or future assets and things of that nature in exchange for Capela.
Yeah, that's probably the best avenue for them to go down. But I do think that, like you were saying, him being on that contract does afford them a bit of flexibility as well. The benching thing is kind of interesting because they were like kind of trending that way anyway, but he was only playing about 20, 22, something like that minutes per night regardless. But it just seemed like when you look at the rest of their metrics and all that stuff, they were just better when they moved away from him there. So with Capela, I think that's mainly one of the reasons why, they kind of shifted away from him. They started trending that way, skewing a little bit younger. I like their roster construction like we talked about previously with the wing build that they have. But I think he still could be a guy that could provide a lot of value to some of the teams that will be interested in the center.
All right, let's give a quick shout out to our sponsor, and that is Prize Picks, and then we'll take a look at where Clint Capela could land and what he would bring. But Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports, so much fun to play. You guys can use the link in the description down below, and make sure you use our code Bulletin. That means that not only do they know that you came from us, but you get a great deal. You get a guaranteed $50 on your first $5 played. So use that promo code Bulletin with Prize Picks. We've got the big matchup tonight. You can see there's a lightning deal here on LeBron James, 16.5 points. Yes, please. I will take that against Boston. Feel pretty good about that one. Let's take a look at some of these other plays that are out here. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I believe the Mavs are on the second night of back-to-back, 31 points. That one is interesting to me. Shai has been on a tear recently.
Didn't he just have a 50-piece game?
He did. Do you think he continues?
I think 30 is easy for him.
All right. Let's go there. Let's do that. And then, you know what? I like this. I like this. Now, this game is actually in action right now. The Pacers and the Spurs. But I kind of dig this one because you got the game going on over in France right now. Miles Turner, 18.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Now we're halfway through the second quarter, so he'd have to really get on his horse here and get it done because he's only at 4 right now but I
Cool.
do like him to hit that ultimately and round back into form. So if you guys want to check that out, you want to check out Prize Picks, you can use the link in the description down below. And of course, use that promo code Bulletin. All right, let's talk a bit more about Clint Capela and kind of where he's at right now. We take a look just at his raw per game stats, 9.5 points. It's the first time, gosh, in almost 10 years that he's been a single digit scorer instead of double digit. He's also a single digit rebounder in about the same amount of time, 9 rebounds, but still 10 and 10, 10 and 9. That's not bad for a guy that's given you 22 minutes a night. Say, even if he's going to be off the bench for some of these teams, he certainly could be an interesting option. And then the shot blocking, that's also fallen off a bit. He's not the player that he once was, but he's on an expiring contract. And that's the beauty part here is he can be a stopgap for a team. He could be not the long-term solution, but if you're looking for a short-term solution, he's a guy that could step in and help you out. Like I don't know how they would get there math-wise, but I think of the Dallas Mavericks who just lost Derek Lively. Wouldn't it be great if they could find a way to go get Clint Capela to help them out in their rotation with Daniel Gafford?
Yeah, that would be pretty cool in the interim. I just don't know if I would like that long term because they've already got redundancy, and he'd be another big that's redundant with those guys, and that just probably wouldn't get played much. He'd probably be third string at that point, I think. So, the thing that kind of stands out to me is that he's still giving you 9 and 9, which is not too far off his career numbers. He had some years, earlier in Houston where he would give you 16 and 12 or, but a lot of times giving you 11 or 12 points and about 10 rebounds, 11 rebounds. But the thing is that I'm seeing is that over the last few years, his efficiency has really declined.
Yeah.
The field goal percentage has gone down. It's still blisteringly high at 57, but it dips. The last couple of years from 65 a couple of years ago. The 2-point percentage has gone down. The effective field goal percentage has gone down. I mean, the minutes have gone down a little bit, but nothing crazy. It's only a few minutes off. So I wonder if that is part of the issue with trying to plug Capela into a team is maybe he's not as efficient as before. However, again, 57% is still pretty great considering what you'd ask for him. And if you were to put him on a team like a team that needs a big, I try to typically stay away from the L word, but a team that needs a big that's got some other guys to take some attention off of him, I'd imagine that he'd get some really good quality looks.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we're staying away from that team whose name starts with an L and ends with an Acres, we could. What about New York? Right? What about the Knicks? They've been rumored to be looking at Mitchell Robinson trades and maybe moving on from him. Clint Capela could certainly be a rebounding presence there. I mean, you go to Cleaning the Glass and you look at the rebounding numbers. He's still excellent there. He's in relative to other bigs. He's in the 92nd percentile rebounding on the offensive glass, the 82nd percentile defensive boards. He's not the player that he once was. His block percentage, 67th percentile relative to other bigs. That's where he is falling off. There's no question. His best days are behind him, but he still gives you stuff. And what I really love is that it's no risk long term. He's an expiring contract. You're renting him for half of a season, and perhaps this is even a way for a team to shed some longer term salary in a move. For example, with that L word team, if they were to make a move around, say, like a Rui Hachimura, well, Rui is a solid player. I'm not saying the Hawks need more wings. They've got plenty of them. This is just a hypothetical, but Rui's got another year under contract. If the Hawks are willing to take back a year, the added incentive to the team getting him, in this case, the Lakers, right? They would be clearing a year's salary off their books, and they would have that benefit as well to going and getting Capela. So I think that the Hawks can use that as a selling point also, not just for teams that need a big, but for teams that are looking to clear salary. The Hawks might be able to get a player that is still providing bang for your buck, but they might have to take on a couple extra years of salary, but maybe they can find a player that's actually better and more impactful than Capela is by doing that. Again, Rui is just an example because he's a contract top of mind. Doesn't have to be him, could be a lot of different players. I know during the summer, the Pelicans had conversations about Brandon Ingram in a deal for Clint Capela. And the Hawks ultimately didn't want to do that because they also didn't want to be the team to pay Brandon Ingram on his next contract. But that's got me thinking, I don't think the Pels want to go in on Capela right now because he's older and their season is effectively over. But might they be able to find somebody like that as well? Could they get in on, as maybe even a third team, on like the Jimmy Butler trade with the Capela expiring contract? Could they get in somewhere else by using that expiring contract? Could he be in on a Zach LaVine trade or something like that? I mean, what about Zach LaVine for Atlanta right there? I think they could have a lot of options here because the contract is expiring and because I think there's enough teams that could use a big.
Yeah, so a couple things on the Rui piece. One thing I don't know that gets talked about a lot in relation to him is that he does have another year of salary, but he turns into an expiring next year. I think there's value in that. Like you could sell a team. I think, hey, we've already paid half this contract, and next year he's a decent size expiring that could have value to you as a big wing that could be useful to other teams. Also with Clint. One thing I'm seeing also while you were kind of going, I was looking at some of the numbers here.
Mm-hmm.
It's the craziest thing because their defense is better when he's on the court. It's just the offense is so much better when they go to a Okongwu. So I think that Clint, if you're not relying on him in an offensive capacity, like we saw, like how he's kind of fallen off a little bit, not like, again, not a huge amount, but a meaningful amount for him on the offensive side. We looked at that, but the offense is just so much better. So if you're getting him on a team that could use more defense, rebounding, rim protection, like you were covering, I think he could have value there as well. I wanted to ask you also, when it comes to him, because he is on such a decent contract. Like, I don't think this is a bad deal. 20 million. I don't think that's a bad deal at all. Regardless of if it was expiring or not, as long as it didn't have like another 5 years, I would be okay with it. Do you think that the Hawks potentially try to go to a team and say, we've got him on this expiring deal. Well, is it okay if, while you're going to get this player back, you also need to give us an asset because of the expiring?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, definitely if they're taking back a salary that a team doesn't want, or a team wants future flexibility or something like that, I don't know that the Hawks will want to have salary dumped on them because they are in the midst of a playoff push. But yeah, if they're taking back a contract that a team simply doesn't want, they're taking back a contract that's seen as bad money on a deal. I mean, again, sticking just because it's top of mind with the Lake. If let's say the Lakers wanted to pair Gabe Vincent and Jared Vanderbilt, I'm not saying the Hawks should be interested in that, but they could ask for first round draft capital there, right? You've got 3 years on Jared Vanderbilt's deal. In that scenario, the Hawks could say, well, if we're taking that money off the books, we're going to want first round compensation for doing something like that. So that could be another avenue they could explore, of just using him as an expiring and trying to get value that way.
The thing that I think could be pretty interesting is if they were able to get into like, the big 4 or 5 team rumored trade, if they were able to sneak into that and flip Clint for some unforeseen player, like that's where that could get kind of interesting.
What about Bruce Brown?
Like that, see, like something like that, that could be pretty interesting.
Right?
Like they could, that's where that deal, I'm kind of hoping it goes through, because I really want to see if anybody else has anything like that. Like when the Cavs got in on that trade and got Jared Allen, that wasn't as big of a deal as this one is rumored.
God, they stole Jared Allen. We knew it at the time too. Exactly. They stole that guy.
Like that's what I kind of want to see, if any team can do anything like that. And if you're the Hawks with that decent size expiring and you're kind of moving away from anyway, you should probably try to get in on that deal if possible.
Yeah.
I think a lot of teams could use a big, just in general. We've talked about that a lot. The NBA is starting to look like it's skewing more big lately with, the way that some of the stars are in the league, the way some of the teams have been winning. You definitely want that size. You definitely want that optionality to play big if you need to. And a lot of teams don't have that. It feels like there's a void of quality big men. And I think he could give you 20 minutes just center play, and teams should be after him. Is he the best center on the market? Second best? Where would you have him?
I'd put him behind Vucevic. I think Vucevic.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
very different player to Vucevic, but I'd put him behind Vucevic. If Jakob Poeltl is on the, we don't know if he is or not. I'd put him behind Poeltl. I'd say in terms of the $20 million centers that are out there potentially, he's probably the bottom of my list. I don't think Miles Turner is available, but if he is, I would put him behind Miles Turner. Put him behind Vucevic. Put him behind Poeltl. But that's where it could be interesting too, though, because there are those other options on the market. And I could see a team saying, well, you know what? Chicago, it keeps asking us for a first for Vucevic. We just don't want to do it. Atlanta will do it for seconds. Let's do that. You know what I mean? Like they can be the alternative option there.
The thing is with those centers, though, is that there's like a lot of like fake guys on the market. Like, I don't know if Miles is on the market.
Right.
I don't know if Walker Kessler is on the market. I don't know if most of these guys, aside from Vucevic and Valanciunas, are actually on the market.
Like I would
That's
rather
where it's really
have the
tricky.
money's different, but I would rather have Capella than Valanciunas.
Oh yeah, well, you
So
like double the money, right? So,
right,
but
exactly,
I'd rather.
double the money. But that I mean that's where it's. But in terms of the $20 million centers, I'd put them last, but it's not by a ton. It's not by so much that, like, again, if I'm a team and it's a first for Vucevic or a second for Capella, I'm taking Capella, right? Like that's probably how I'd roll with that. But another name out there on the market, at least at minimum, and I think that's a good thing for the overall strength of the trade market as we head in to the February 6th trade deadline. But everybody, let us know your thoughts. Where should Capella go? What should the Hawks be expecting to get in return? And don't forget to go check out our latest video about Bradley Beal maybe putting the brakes on a Jimmy Butler to Phoenix trade. He's got that pesky no trade clause. Go check that out right now.